Business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Inspiration, motivation takes. Listen to the podcast. We're all about to talk about life. Our guests will share their life story. We want you to success in life and business. We're ready and we will start shortly. We're gonna talk about life. We're going to speak on business. You're gonna shine bright. We are going to witness. Business with a servant's heart. With hosts Steve, Ramona, and Ray. Inspiration, education talks. Listen to the podcast.
One. Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. I'm your host, Steve Ramona. I am so thrilled to have you join us today. Got an incredible guest for you. And we dedicated this podcast exploring the idea of a servant's heart, how to use that in your work and your life to uplift. And we're going to talk about that. I love the word we were talking about before the show is uplifting people. Why not do that every day? Make a difference in people's lives. The other thing we did is we brought guests on to motivate you, inspire you, and educate to uplift you so you can uplift others, which leads to your homework today. Your call to action is how are you going to serve yourself and others today, and what impact will you create today or uplift? I want you to think about that. Don't wait till tomorrow. Don't wait till next week. Start today and try to do it every day. I tell you what, I do it every day. It's the greatest thing I get to do in my life when I wake up in the morning. I want to thank our sponsor, Pantheon Alliance, joining a community of high-income entrepreneurs and business leaders who are creating a world-changing thought leader platform to help grow your business and, again, make an impact. So you say my impact and difference. I say it a lot, but are we really doing it? Well, sometimes a tragedy in our life leads us to that. And my guest today is going to talk about that a little bit more, but how he's helping others and really building a hell of a legacy. With that being said, Jason, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate you having me on the show today. You've done an amazing job with your podcast, and it's an honor to be here.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Tell me my story. You tell your story.
Tell my
that's
story.
Where you start with. Yeah.
Well, I will tell you that my story, I'm 57 years old, and if you had asked me that question 7 years ago, it'd be a completely different question, a different answer. I've always been in business. I've been in business since I was, 20 years old. I've owned my companies for 30 plus years, and we've been relatively successful. We employ a few thousand people across 4 different brands in construction across the United States, and I own other companies as well, coach CEOs, so all that business stuff we'll put on the side. But yeah, it's been a good run, and it's still a great run. But 7 years ago, this next month, my son, who had just turned 14, died of suicide. And that changed everything. Yeah. So, yeah, all the emotions, all the feelings, all the stuff that you go through, and I can tell you, it just never goes away, but it changes you. So when that happened, I decided I wanted to figure out how to make a difference in the world. And I started with a movie called Tell My Story, because as I was going through Ryan's notes and drawers, and he said, here's my username and password to tell my story. And that started the movie Tell My Story, which you can find on Amazon and wherever streaming platform you use. But that's the story of me trying to figure out exactly what happened to Ryan, what's going on in the world with kids. And I dove really deeply into this whole idea. I did a couple of TEDx talks. Sorry.
No problem.
Did a couple of TEDx talks that, one, the hot lava talk, which I encourage people to start there. It's a great, turn your
You are a busy man. You're proving it live that you're busy. I love it.
Thought I turned that off. Anyway, so, the hot lava talk basically covers the idea of what it was like when Ryan grew up versus when I grew up. And the way I described the easiest way is that when I was 14 years of age and the phone rang, my father would answer it because it was connected to the wall. And he decided if you got to talk to somebody, not talk to somebody. And when you did, he'd stand there until you said, I'll call you tomorrow, or I'll see you at school. And that's, it's a different world. And when we talk about where kids are and why they are where they are, I believe it's 100% because the world has taken off in a completely different direction. They have stress on them that they never had before, that I never had when I was a kid. The stress to get into schools, to get scholarships, to get really high grades to even get into a school, to outperform everybody else. And on top of that, they've got to worry about, whether we're going to be in a war with the Ukraine, war with the Middle East. And why does that matter? Because in 10 years, the whole world's going to be done because of global warming or climate change. And then you've got our political leaders who both sides of the aisle are just jobs. So as a 14-year-old kid, that's what you used to deal with. When I was a 14-year-old kid, I was worried about going to school and not getting beat up by my bullies. But when I came home at night, my bullies stayed at school. So the pressure with that, social media, all the things you already know, right? So those are the conversations that we'd like to have. We have a movie called What I Wish My Parents Knew that we put into schools. We've done, I think Dana was on your show, and we put together this card deck that we love. This is a great way to have conversations with your kids. And everything in that universe that I live in that universe at least, is geared towards having better conversations with your kids. And we did a couple of albums with BMG Music, with my music partners and creative partners. We did Songs for the Drive Home, which is the first album, which is right there. And that's out on BMG. And then the recent one that just came, that was just a great song. Yeah, the concept was, you're driving home and one of your kids is going to talk to you. Well, when you're not looking in the eye, right? They hate to look you in the eye. So you ever wonder how you have a great conversation with your kids on the drive home? Because they don't have to look you in the eye. They hate that. So you're driving and you put this album on. It's like all Jack Johnson-y kind of style music, and some songs by kids. The first side A would be, younger songs for younger kids, and side B is songs for older kids, but they're all based around mental health. And the idea they'll spark conversations with kids. There's a whole series of videos go through each one of them. We just did Take the Long Way Back, which is the second album, which we're really proud of. It came out last week on Spotify. It's on Spotify and all those things. And there's videos on each song for YouTube, but we gathered artists from around the world to be on this. Some artists from TV shows, from social media. There's a lot of up and coming artists. And we had them put their own little twist on the songs we wrote. And it's a great album. And again, it's all geared towards mental health. And that's the kind of stuff I do to try and make a difference. And I'm on podcasts like yours, and I speak. I try not to speak all that much on this, but it's not that easy.
Yeah.
But we do. And that's the world I live in, just trying to make a difference.
Well, it reminds me, I'm 63, so I'm a little bit older, but when I was 14, my biggest worry was make sure I'm home by dinner, or I was going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
The scream from mom, hey, Steve, come home. It's dinner time. Much different now. And you're absolutely right. How has COVID, because it's been 7 years since that tragedy, how's COVID you've seen change this as well?
How did COVID change things?
Yes.
I think we're still unraveling how COVID changed things. Because I think it changed, if you take a look at the workforce and people, it's changed a lot of things. I employ a lot of people, right? And this won't be popular with some of your people who listen to your podcast, but we need to be back at work. My whole office has been back at work since we were allowed to be back at work, because we cooperate better, we work better in teams. And it's funny, my office was complaining, as most people do, right? Like, we can work great from being at home. And then I think the funny thing is that, one of my IT guys said to me, it's funny, on Monday to Thursday, I get calls all day long from people not being able to use their computer. And Fridays, the day you let them all work from home, nobody ever calls me. And I said, you know what? We're done with Friday working at home. That's it. And then fast forward to now, and we're spread across 3 different offices, and Irvine has been growing so much. Now everybody's complaining, can we all be in the same office? Because it really sucks that we're half a mile away. I'm like, perfect. I'll get a new building. Not a problem. Yeah. But that's changed because a lot of people haven't got back to work. A lot of people don't want to be back to work. A lot of people are taking work calls from the grocery store, and while they're doing the dishes, and thinking that's work. And as a company, as a society, we've lost productivity and we've lost the importance of work. And by the way, if you think you're going to get promoted and a raise while you're sitting at home watching your kids on Zoom calls, it's not going to happen. You're going to pass by. You don't have to like me for saying that. I'm just telling you the truth. Now, when it comes to kids, COVID was hard. I mean, it was great in the beginning, the first couple of months, home with mom and dad, it's all good. And this is kind of neat. My bullies stayed away. But then all of a sudden, kids are pack animals. We can't be on our own. We are pack animals, right? We're not meant to be loners. So it really stunted the growth of a lot of kids for that year and a half or whatever the hell it was. I can't remember now. Everybody was just kind of on their own, staying at home. Some stayed at home longer. Some never. They're still struggling. Some to come back, and emotionally come back. And it's depending on what age they were when it was going through. There's some really important years of being socially adjusted to people that they missed, and now they're scared of COVID. They're scared of another COVID.
Yeah,
and I get it. So we are sitting right now at a point where we have, the worst mental health crisis I think we've ever had. And unfortunately, we've been able to say that every year for the last 20 years. Ever since the beginning of Facebook, we've been able to say, well, we're the worst we've ever been. And we're not coming out of it. Right? It got a little bit better during COVID at the beginning, and then it went back down. Parents are struggling. They don't want to be at work. They're struggling with their kids. They're struggling with their kids being emotionally upset. It's challenging. And then we have the problem that, when you are struggling at work and you are struggling at home and you go to your boss and you say, my daughter just started cutting and I don't know what to do about it. That's all I'm thinking about. And your boss looks you in the eye and goes, what's cutting? Because we just don't do a good job of educating our managers, our workforce, all of us on what's going on in the world right now. And so we don't give our people the support they need. And then where we end up with is, I need actual numbers to back this up, but I think most people will agree with me. We are losing more time and more productivity as a country to mental illness, whether it be our own or our families, than to RSV and the flu and COVID and everything else, right? Because what ends up happening is that person comes to work and says, my daughter is cutting and I don't know what to do. And the manager goes, yeah, that's terrible, I think. And wow, okay. And the next day that person doesn't show up to work and they said they have the flu.
Yeah. No support.
Yeah. And by the way, I don't want you to take this the wrong way. I'm not just about making money and productivity. I mean, we are better off together. Everyone is better off when we're achieving things, right? And work gives us the ability to achieve things. I don't care if you don't want to go to work, go achieve something else. Be creative, right? That's fine. Do something. But as a species, we need to win. We need to achieve things. We need a reason to get up in the morning.
Celebration.
Yeah, celebration.
Absolutely.
And Netflix is not a reason to get up.
No, it's not. You're right. Communication is a whole big part of these stories you've told. What's some tips you can leave parents that are listening with children that are struggling with mental health?
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing you got to realize with your kids is that parenting is inconvenient, right? And they're not going to come to you with your problems or their problems when you want them to. So you're going to have to be willing to put down the phone, sit down and have the conversation when they're ready. And they're not going to have it when you want them to. In other words, don't listen to this podcast, go burst in their bedrooms tonight and say, we need to talk about your mental health. Because that's not going to work. That's when the F-bombs start coming. You wonder why your kids swear so much. Because you just invaded their little space. So let me give you a couple of things to think about. And I tell people this the same way all the time, is that if you've never been depressed and you've never had any of these kind of issues, anxiety, depression, anything like that, then you're not going to understand it. And let me give you a way to try and understand it. I live in Southern California, and for the most part, I look out my office window and it's sunny and there's not a cloud in the sky. Sorry for the rest of you, but that's what I look at. And if I had someone who's depressed sitting next to me and they were looking at that same sky, the only thing they're going to see is clouds. And I can look at them and say, look, there's not a cloud. What are you talking about? There's no clouds in the sky. And they're only going to see clouds. And there's nothing I can say that's going to change their mind. There's nothing. The only thing I can do is get them to talk to me, to get them to share with me what those clouds look like. Why do they come in? Ask them questions. Are they there all the time? Do they come and go? Are some clouds worse than others? Tell me about it. And resist with every fiber in your being to try and fix it. And this was hard for me to realize because I fixed stuff. As a coach, as a CEO, people call me all day long with, Jay, I got a problem. What do I do? And my job is to fix it. People, I always say, no one calls me the good news. I always hear the good news later. Right? It's like, oh, by the way, we did this. I'm like, well, you could have led with that. That would have been nice for change. But
yeah,
in the reality, though, when you're dealing with your kids and you're dealing with mental health with your kids, your spouse, your friends, the minute you try to fix it, they're going to shut up and they're not going to talk to you. They're going to shut down completely. They're not, there's no logic to this. So don't try to put any logic. The more they speak, the more they feel better because they're speaking. The more you get them to talk about how they feel, the better they're going to feel. The reason what therapists do is that. Tell me more. Tell me more. Tell me how that makes you feel. The reason I'm telling you this, there's not enough therapists in the world. Yeah. There's not enough good therapists in the world. Like there's not enough good police officers, not enough good teachers, not enough great doctors. Therapists are no different. So my message to parents is very simple. You need to own your kids' mental health the way you do their physical health.
Yeah.
If your kid has a stomach ache on Monday morning, you first look at them and go, you're lying. You go get yourself ready for school. They come down, they go, my stomach still hurts. And you go, huh. Okay. And you feel their forehead and you're like, oh crap, you got a fever. Okay, well, let's go. And then we go into parent mode and we get them, we call the doctor, we get them set up in front of the TV, checking on them. We're all worried about them, right? And we fix it. Oh my gosh, you got appendicitis. Let's get you to the hospital. Our kid comes home and says, I broke up with my girlfriend and I'm miserable and I'm not sure what I want to do and if I want to be here. And we say, oh, that's crazy. There's so many other girls. You're only 15 years old. Don't worry about it. She's dumb. You're going to have so many, look, just brush it off, but I'll talk to you when you get back from work. Now, that might be okay 9 times out of 10. But if you say that to the wrong kid at the wrong time, they go, well, my parents just don't care. No one cares.
It could be catastrophic, huh?
Yeah. Now, it's hard because I'm not saying don't discipline your kids. I'm not saying don't give them direction. I'm saying just you got to pay extra special attention more so than our parents did.
Yeah. So it sounds like the skill set that's super important is listening.
Yeah.
Be a great listener.
Yeah. That's really, I mean, it's probably what you, Steve, people say this on your podcast, I'm sure, all the time. It's just pay attention and listen. Listen.
You do.
Listen. And then maybe speak, maybe not. In this particular situation, the less you speak, the better. Imagine a pressure cooker. Someone who's got a mental health challenge, who's depressed, who's angry, you can tell, right? You can look at them sometimes and you go, oh my gosh, there's something going on here. The more they talk about themselves and how they feel, whether it's logical or not, that little pressure cooker, the steam's getting out of the pressure. Remember how the old school pressure cooker, you and I would know, right? Yeah. They'll let the steam off and the pressure dies down. That's what it is. And they feel better because they're talked, because they had a chance to talk. Yeah. The other thing, well, there's a whole bunch. I go on for hours, Steve, but I mean, the other thing I learned is that, and I learned this from Ryan, is that we're in a lot of signs of Ryan. Don't assume that just because your kid is the captain of the football team or the head cheerleader, that they don't have any deep-seated fear and feeling like they don't belong and they didn't, and imposter syndrome, the whole list goes on, right? Because far too often the child who makes the decision to try and take their own life is, someone that we never thought would do it.
Yeah.
And then the final piece of this, I don't want to make this about suicide, because you're going to go, well, Jay, the chance of my child dying of suicide is pretty low. I'm like, you're right. It is probably pretty low, right? 10,000, 12,000 kids, whatever the stats are. I mean, the stats are weird because they don't always count everything, but it's in the large scale of how many kids are in the United States, your chances are low. Got it. But if you go by the stats that 35 to 40% of all kids these days have some kind of mental health challenge, depression, or anxiety at some point during the year that's serious, then there's a really good chance that your child is having some thoughts about something. And that's no way to live. And if you can help them.
Yeah. Tell my story. Tell us a story from Tell My Story where you've helped somebody with telling their story and how you've helped them move forward in their life.
I don't keep score when it comes to this.
Okay.
I just don't, because here's how I look at it. When we put what I wish my parents knew into roughly 75 to 100 schools a year and churches, things like that. And sometimes we have an audience of 150 people, and sometimes we have an audience of 5 people. And when I speak in terms of a crowd, and I go out to speak somewhere, and maybe 20 people show up, maybe 5 people show up, maybe 100 people show up, I am the same person every single time. Because here's what I know about that world I live in. If you show up to listen to me, you've got something serious going on in your life that's important for you. And I'm here to give you everything I can to help you. So how many people I help? I don't know. But how many people we speak to? A lot. And everyone, I'm not a Marvel movie. You don't show up because you have nothing else to do and you want to see something funny.
Yeah.
Right? You show up because you know the topic and it's serious and it's important to you. So I'm sure we've helped lots of people. I hear lots of stories. I'm not here for that. I'm here because I'm doing what I have to do.
Yeah. No, I love it. Authentic and genuine. It's powerful. Extremely powerful. Real quick, you've written a lot of books. Coming to the end here. You said you've written 7 and sold 8.
I've written 7 books. I've sold 8. That's exactly what it is.
What's the impetus of writing a book for you?
It was a phase. I go through phases. I went through a book writing phase. I wrote a novel. I wrote kids books. I wrote a couple of business books. I had some published, some self-published. I just thought I wanted to write books. I went through that. I've gone through a screenwriting phase. I've written some screenplays. I've got a movie we're working on right now called In a Pickle, about pickleball, that I could tell you a Hollywood story about. The minute you turn it over to the actual producer, we'll see what actually happens, but I think it killed the movie. It's never going to be made. Hollywood kills good ideas. Is the only thing I would say. I should have done it on my own. Nothing wrong with the producers, just I think Hollywood kills good ideas. I like trying a whole bunch of new stuff. I mean, I've got a series on YouTube we're starting called Ghost Town USA, where I go to towns and interview people who live in ghost towns. We were just in Jefferson, Texas last week doing season 2. So I like to live life to the fullest. I don't sit around TV and watch TV. I don't watch sports. I am busy and productive most of the day, pretty much every day of the week. And I like it that way. Some people want to go golf for 3 days. I want to go interview people in ghost towns. So.
Yeah, it's what you enjoy. You're definitely a servant's heart, especially everything you've been through and all that. Let's end with a fun question. Get to know you a little bit deeper. So I've got a reservation at a restaurant, table of 4. You're obviously going to sit in one of the chairs. The other 3 empty chairs, who would you invite, dead or alive? And what food would you order?
Who would I invite? I haven't had this one before. If I kept it current, I'd probably want to sit have dinner with the Pope before he passes. Not that I'm super religious, but I'd enjoy that. I'd probably invite Vladimir Putin to see what he's really made of. and I'd sit him across the table from Zelensky.
What a table.
Yeah, I like controversy. I like keeping things real and interesting, and that would be an interesting conversation.
Yeah. I'd love to sit in that table.
And what would I order for dinner?
Yeah. What are we eating?
I don't care what we eat, but we're gonna drink wine.
Okay.
Because then I'm gonna get the real truth.
A few hours later, you're going to get everything you want.
I don't care. In fact, the less they eat, the better. The more wine they drink, the better.
Yeah. You know, you're blessing, and thank you for blessing us on my show, talking about what you're doing. You're a busy man, but you always come down to helping people, especially in mental health. We know it's a tragedy right now. It's a huge problem, and you're out there helping people listening. Go, you know, I want to talk to Jason or connect with what you're doing. How can they do that?
They can find us at tellmystory.org and they connect with me there. That's probably the easiest way. And if you go and click on the contact us link, you'll reach Dana, who will make sure you get in touch with me. That's probably, or jasonreid.fyi. That's my site. It's got all my stuff on it.
And audience, I've had him and Dana on, and the reason I did that, this has to be told over and over and over, and having them back in the near future would be, because it's not going away tomorrow, next month, or next year. It's here for a while. We need to change the trajectory of this, and you're doing such a great job of it. And as being as busy as you are at such a young age, it's great to hear. So that's fantastic.
Well, I'm glad you feel it's a young age. I think you're a young man as well. So
I feel it, especially after today. It's great. And an audience, call to action in, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And I'm going to tell you, this podcast is a true gift. You're talking to a parent that has an issue with their child, struggling, hearing these things that Jason's talking about. Have them listen to Jason for 10, 15 minutes. Doesn't have to be the whole podcast. They go out and reach out to Jason, or they pick something up like listening. And they come back to you a week later and go, oh my God, I'm listening to my child. Man, we're making better inroads. You gave them a gift. Guess what? You get the gift back. Universe will pay you back. Give these gifts out. That's what I think podcasts really are. They're a gift for humanity, especially this one. So go ahead and subscribe. So when you get these links, if it's resonant with somebody or any other podcast you listen to, all my millions of podcast hosts, that same thing. Share those links as gifts. And as always, me and Jason want to thank you all so much for watching or listening to this podcast. And we'll see you all on the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. Have a great day, everyone.